Sure. Hello, Pami ma'am. Good evening. How are you doing?
Nice. Thank you for having me here.
First of all, thank you so much for doing this. And many congratulations for being appointed as one of the senior law advocate in the state of Odisha. I mean, it's one of the proudest moment for us. I mean, I know that for many years there is no female senior advocate for state of Odisha. So many congratulations for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great. So let's start with you. I mean, how's your journey, or what was your trigger point when you decided that I'll become a lawyer, and how your life changed after becoming senior advocate? I mean, has the life become much easier now?
No, not really easier. In fact, I always tell whenever I'm addressing students, I said, work hard so that you work harder. So that's the whole thing. And I was basically born in a family of lawyers, at least from my grandfather and my father, though my grandmother was a doctor, but basically I was. And I used to readily sit between both of them. So as a kid, so all that I used to hear is court cases. So I would say they were my fairy tales. So they were my initial trigger point. And also I think I was very observant and sensitive as a woman. I was growing up, and I'm talking somewhere 40 years back, 35 years back. So the imbalance between the power which men enjoy and the woman enjoy was pretty evident to me from that point. And being so, somewhere I understood that when you're a lawyer, people trust you with their lives. So that kind of a responsibility, when if it's given to a woman, I understood that it was a different dynamics and empowerment. Somehow that child mind of mine had somewhere captured it. I think later the subjects, like, we study civics, that also interests me. And so, as I grew, I realized that, I have an aptitude, interest for it. And then I studied. I think as a journey, I was fortunate to be a third generation lawyer. So, when your father is your senior, at least, you have a little starting advantage. He'll give you a chance. But then my grandfather always said that, you might get a chance, but the second step is always yours. So I think there where the whole journey and the rigor starts. I think when I was just unmarried and working, things were okay, better. You had flexibility. But as the roles as a woman kept growing, that's where the whole difficulty starts. How do you balance? How do you manage? And it's a very one-sided role. I would say parenting is a one-sided role for a woman. So that's where the whole thing started. As far as I think the journey to a senior advocate was something I'd always aspired for, because I've seen both of them as senior. I always aspire to be one. I won't say that things become easy when you become senior. Rather, you become more responsible, because then you also have an additional responsibility. Like, as a kid, you're excused for many things, but as a grown-up, you're not excused. So as a senior, you're not excused for many things. You have to be far more careful what you submit to the court. Your conduct is something people either would get inspired by, the youngsters, the young lawyers. So I think it brings you obviously you are matured enough to take it. And when you step into it, it adds to your maturity. So it's not that it's difficult or easy. You realize that, the level of responsibility is a little more. You become more mature in that whole scenario. So I would say that.
Yeah. Right. Good that you spoke about responsibility of a woman in the field of law, or in society in general. I would like to ask you about the rights of a woman in the succession laws. I mean, how complicated it is, or how easy it is. Could you shed some light on that?
See, again, I would confine my talk here to the Hindu Succession Act, because, then they are Muslims, Christians, but leave it to Hindu Succession Act. I think that was also the understanding. So, prior to 1956, see, most of these aspects of human life, succession, marriage, children, were more or less non-codified. They were based on your customary ways of, because these are ways of life which have developed, evolved. So they were more customary in nature. So it's 1956 when you and I are slowly getting into the fold of making it codified. So I think of course, when it became codified, certain rights did come in, like woman being recognized as one of the heirs. Then, the widow's right was also seen in the inheritance as far as her husband was concerned. But one of the major changes happened is, woman, whatever right now she had, whether in form of a will she got it, she purchased it. Previously, prior to 1956, I mean, a little more than earlier than 1956, that right was only recognized, as long as she lives, she can utilize her property for as a maintenance. But she did not have the whole ownership right. See, one of the important aspects of ownership, that I should be able to transfer it or give it to anybody, that was not available. So that, in 1956, that came in for a woman. But I think the landmark thing which comes in 2005 is that amendment where the woman becomes a co-partner. So I need to explain you basically what it means. It comes basically from the aspect of joint family property. See, now you have so much of nuclear family and stuff like that. But then, I think when you have a joint family, and maybe joint for decade, for centuries actually, and division may not have happened.
Correct.
So a man by birth had a right on it. But a woman did not. A daughter did not have. So that changed. I mean, I always keep wondering that, with the constitution, we're coming in 1956, why it took such a long time to do that? So now she has an equal right, and she can dispose it off in any way. So now she can obviously even ask for a partition in a joint family property, which may have been carried for now 10 generations. Which, I think that makes it a big change here. Of course, if there is partitions which have happened before 2005, then those surviving daughters or, cannot do much about it. But if it is unpartitioned, then she definitely has. And I think these would be broad rights which now come to women. The level playing field comes to women, I would say.
So do you think that after 2005, there is more neutrality in terms of gender? I mean, are they treated equal, or it still need to be go through a reform?
See, legally, something may be served in your plate.
Mm-hmm.
But conditioning is something which works a great deal. I must tell you this. Women and men both. I would not say only women. Even men are victim of conditioning. And the brother may be conditioned to understand, from his, I've seen this example great deal in and around me, where the son is said that, this is your house, this is your property. The daughter is not said. And not everybody becomes a lawyer. Not everybody is. So, it is conditioned that, and this conditioning will not allow her to ask for it, because what is at stake is also her personal relationship. Though I think that's a very, that's a very non-enabling situation where you kind of, you are in a fix to choose, between your personal relationship and between your real rights, which as a human being belongs to you. Because, that whole idea of family being that, caretaker, that security, and then somehow that should break, because it's again based on false value. It's not based on equality of individuals. It's a suppressive, there is a false underlying thing, which, see, earlier maybe that was the case. Things were different. Things were different. Now things are different. We are not living in an era where, your woman may be killed, she may not survive. Things were different. Man and woman had to do different roles, but that's not the case now. So I think that conditioning matters a lot. So what is required is a great deal of, feeding right from, childhood, feeding it through newspapers or feeding it through, the kind of work that you are doing. That, these are your rights. Don't think that you are different. This house is as much as yours, as much as his.
Okay. So like, do you consider having financial literacy or at least awareness of these right, like succession right, or like general laws which is applicable for a woman, irrespective of whether she's a housewife or she's a working lady or even she's unmarried? How important is this in a life of a woman?
Very important. Very important. I cannot, I can see, I'll give you an example. You started a startup. Can you do it without a capital? It's an expression of yourself. So when it comes to a woman, how would she express it? Doesn't have the means to express it. And inheritance. Now, see, suppose a woman wants to do business. And if she has an inheritance and she wants to divert it whichever way she wants to, it's a big thing. You can also have you can also have joint properties now, and the income from the joint properties invested in mutual funds. That also becomes joint. And simply joint. And she's not given access to it. It doesn't make sense. Right. She should have the right to convert it. How will she express herself? It's as simple as it.
Correct. The financial security or financial protection is much.
I would say not protection. I would not even use the word protection and security. Financial independence, financial expression rather.
Correct. Financial independence. I mean, at this point of time, where everybody share the similar responsibility, whether it's a man, it's a female. I think these laws has to be much more discussed. I mean, people should have open discussion on this. Family should have open discussion in it, and it shouldn't be only in terms of a good faith. Like before, let's say 2 years back, 10 years back, even now also in many cities, many states, brothers are given the right and responsibility of having ancestral properties, the benefit of like having the wealth, or even the right to decide who gets what. Right? I mean, if the father pass away, the most probably the eldest son decides how the money gets distributed, or it ends up in 20 years of court cases.
Absolutely
making sense. Great. So let me go to my next question. So there's a very recent case law from Supreme Court. So where Honorable Supreme Court, in the case of Maya Gopinath versus Anu, where they defined or I can say put focused on what is exactly Stridhan. Okay, and how it is important. Why should every woman understand what is Stridhan and what are her rights when it comes to Stridhan? So could you put some light on that?
Yes. First, let me explain you what exactly Stridhan is all about. Okay. Now, these are movable or immovable properties which she gets from her father's side during her marriage, and also something that she gets from the in-laws side. So once given, it is her dhan. You can't take it back from her. It's her sole property. And what the Supreme Court says that she has the complete right over it. Nobody has any right over it. Neither the giving parents, neither the giving husband and the in-laws. And she has the sole person to decide upon how she utilizes it and leaves it. But there's a catch in that judgment. It says that the woman may give part with it in distress. Obviously, voluntarily she might do it. And then the husband has a moral obligation to return it, not a legal obligation. And I think that's where further thing is required, because we understand
there is always a great
because there's a power dynamics. As I always told you, woman is in such a situation that, to live her full being, it comes at the sacrifice of her personal relationship. And nobody is ready to understand that those personal relationships as such, the edifice of the personal relationship is based based on such foundations which have not treated us as a complete human. And so, if you treat somebody a complete human, you give them similar ownership right. Why should it become a bone of contention when she decides to take a step for her betterment, her enablement, or she wants to decide, that just the right to decide, right to say, no, I don't want to give it. And then, the relationship with the husband and wife can just be torn apart. But then husband does not think like that. If you see the dynamics, majorly, if husband says no, wife absolutely accepts that or respects that decision. But if wife says no, as if it's you've done something against the institution of marriage. So again, I said, it's a conditioning. You may say that somebody is equal, but you hardly treat that somebody is equal. It reflects in your action. So I think there where the whole I would say the demerit of that, something we need to progressively understand the dynamics of human relationship. And, so though it is totally her property, but then if the husband only has moral obligation, you can't impose you can't, go and fight a case for a moral obligation. But the court did say one thing, that suppose you malifiedly, with a dishonest intention, misappropriate that property, then it does call for criminal action.
So let's say in a practical situation, when, for example, somebody is about to get married, okay, and they are aware that a significant amount of gift or money is coming through gift from her parents, from her relative, and similarly from her in-laws side also. How she will make sure that she has a control or at least a track of what she is receiving, and what information he should be sharing with their family, the in-laws family. What can a woman do to protect or to make sure that it is not misappropriated?
See, two things I will tell you. One is that you have to groom our daughters.
Okay.
Telling that, see, your property is your responsibility. That's something I was groomed by my grandfather and my father, because we didn't have any sons anyways also. So I was anyways groomed. I was the eldest. I anyways had to take the responsibility. So I was groomed. So inherently groomed. But why I am reflecting to my personal experience, that is what today when I'm experiencing the world, experiencing the many women who are in distress, specifically in financial distress, that's exactly it. If they were groomed in this way, they would, on the day they get married, they would not part with it. They would be interested to know कि मुझे क्या मिला, and how do I keep it and where do I keep it. And see, and then information is out on the net. It's today's a world of information. So where do I invest? You have hundreds of people. Where do I invest? Even a non-working woman, just find out where do I invest. So one is she's groomed that way, and second, she's told that you by taking a decision, by keeping your information, you don't you are not breaking any obligation. You are not obliged to tell anything about your property to your husband or in-laws. And do it yourself. Make the mistake if it happens also. It doesn't matter. Even men make mistakes. Not all sons make the correct investment of their father's property. Make the mistake. Have the liberty to make the mistake. So that's very important.
Or you can take a help of a qualified financial advisor.
Yes.
There are so many.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah, correct. That's true. Amazing. So, ma'am, we received a few questions from our user, or we had received. So I'll just ask you these quick questions that we received. So the first question was, my husband passed away 2 years back, and I stay with my parents now. Can I claim a share in my deceased husband properties now?
Yes, because I believe she's a Hindu. I presuming that she's a Hindu. The act itself recognizes that she is one of the first class heir. She is an heir to her, husband's property, undivided, divided. Now you see again, your property may be ancestral property, may be self-acquired. See that ex-husband may have from his own income purchased a property, so she has a share in it. If they don't have any kids, in fact, she is the exclusive heir. Maybe with the mother, with the parents of the, but she is one of the heirs. And even in ancestral property also, fictionally, it has to be seen that had the man survived and had asked for partition, whatever would have been his share, if it comes to him, then she is also one of the legal heirs. So she definitely has, and she can ask for that share.
Does the stand change if the widow gets remarried? Can she claim share in her deceased husband?
That is something I'll have to, will not give you a straight answer right now.
So second question was, how can a will help me to protect my right in my family's inheritance?
No, see, will is not a protection of your rights really. Will is what will happen the property after you are dead.
No, I think what she meant is a will of a father. So, can the will of my father help me protect my right in my family's inheritance? Or what
See,
if my father doesn't have a will, there might be a chance that my other sibling can.
No, she's a legal heir to her father's property.
Okay.
If a father self-acquired property, she does. Even now, today, joint family property, she is one of the legal heirs. So nobody can actually transfer it completely without taking her consent to it. So, but then of course, fraudulent transactions do happen. And then, it lands some court cases. But if it is strictly going by law, nobody can. Now, what happens is in the will, of course, again, will, as the word will, the father may not give her anything also, which otherwise would have come because of succession. And then will also comes with his own problems. Because a will is not straight a document that you can just produce and claim a right. It has to be probated. It's just a kind of court case where you probate, and there is a cost involved in it, because it's like almost like the way you pay a stamp duty when you are transferring property, selling. So that kind of assessment is made. So will is quite a costly affair that way. But even in absence of will, she's an heir.
Yeah, she's equal.
All that probably she has to do is like, when you initially said that you also are creating things like database. If this keeps happening in every family, and she also has an access to the database, it will be very easy for her to go and just claim through a partition suit. Unless you don't have an idea about what the properties are, it does make a lot of difficulty.
Yeah, in that also a will can help. It also works like a database of what property do you have.
No, the will may not express all the properties.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you write a will. Because there's
suppose the father just may make a will just for a standalone building, may not have made a will for all the properties.
Correct. No, correct. That's what I said. It depends on how you write a will. Whether you give a complete detail of all your assets or whether you do it for one asset. So it all matters how the will is written.
Yes.
Right. So the next question is, I'm a married working woman. Is it necessary to have a joint will with my spouse, or should I have an individual will?
I prefer an individual will. Marriages are,
I mean, does it make any difference if somebody has a joint will, or
No, I think the joint will could be a problem. Suppose, because will you can change, you can revoke a will. So joint wills, obviously your power of revocation also gets a little, reduced or controlled by the fact that there's another person in that will. So, having a single will is preferable, given the fact that, marriages itself are uncertain affairs. I would prefer a
single will, I mean individual will.
Yes, even if there's a joint property, say you have a flat or a house jointly. So your share is anyways, at least for your share, you can always make a will.
Yeah.
Why you have to go?
For a joint.
What I mean to say is that don't mess your relationship. Keep it separate. What's the problem? Keep it separate.
I mean, वो इंडिया में है ना सब साथ में करेंगे.
वही तो problem है ना. वही तो problem है.
True, very true. Great, ma'am. So before we wrap up this conversation, could you share any real life case where you have seen that having knowledge of succession rules and laws actually helps somebody in getting through those troubled areas?
I'll give you two examples. One which I've seen in my family itself. Where I realized that, had the daughters had enough of grit and knowledge, they would not have handed over the power of attorney. They would have understood that, they're basically handing over their rights in the family property. And yes, there was one very important matter, which is again, did come to me as an opinion. I had to give an opinion on it of a very close friend. And they had joint family property for generation together. And the woman, the daughters of the family, I was actually working for the son there. So the daughters of the family actually woke up and collected all the information and filed a case on the basis of this 2005 amendment. And they got a good chunk of, they secured themselves. It's even if it's 1 rupee, when a woman knows that, yes, this is my right to have it, it changes her dynamics. She becomes very confident. So I think, yes, that kind of knowledge really helped those daughters at least. And in my family, I realized that lack of it worked against them.
And coming from a lawyer family, at least 3-generation lawyer family, I think it's a huge, lesson to learn, that need to have some kind of understanding how these laws work, personal laws. I mean, it's a little complicated. Hope coming time will see a much better and transparent laws.
I think it's more complicated, not when it comes to Hindus, I'll tell you. It's more complicated, again, far more complicated for other, communities. I must tell you that.
Correct.
Far more complicated. That's why, the whole idea of uniform civil code makes a lot of sense. People who oppose uniform civil code on the ground of religion are actually not understanding the feminine side of it. That, when you have a uniform civil code, what will get protected is the rights of the woman in the society. She will be given her full embodiment.
Yes. I mean, it's a great topic to discuss, but I think we'll keep it for some other day. I mean, it's a ocean. I mean, succession laws itself is a ocean, and UCC is another big fish to play around. So
Absolutely.
So yeah, we'll keep it for another day. Thank you so much, ma'am, for spending.
Thank you.
Hope you had good time speaking to us also.
Absolutely.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.